Café and Networking Podcast promotes business owners and business experts throughout the world. I'm Tom Reaoch, known as the King of Networking, podcasting and connecting people from my studio in Brazil. And today we talk with Carol Clegg. She's joining us from Albuquerque, New Mexico in the United States. Carol Clegg, originally from Cape Town, South Africa, is the owner of Classic Exec Marketing, a small business marketing coach for women in their early phase of entrepreneurship, supporting global women in midlife to get organized and streamline their strategies. She offers consulting packages to get the tools needed to create the business-life balance. So, Carol, how can women achieve a positive mindset with the seasons of life?
Oh, well, hello, Tom, and thank you for having me on your show. This is a great time to talk to women in midlife, because I want them, first of all, to be encouraged that there are opportunities. Mm-hmm. There are things that you can think of. There are passions that you can move into a business opportunity. Now, with that comes an avalanche of ideas. There can be so many ideas that you want to procrastinate, and then you push them to the side and you just don't get out the starting gates.
Right.
So, that certainly can be, I can't do this. But I want to encourage you that, yes, you can. Midlife women can start a business on their own. You don't have to have a million tools to get started.
Right.
So if you're a woman and wanting to turn your passion into something real, let's start with those ideas. So ideas can be overwhelming. Let's work through them. Let's write them down. So that's the first thing I'd encourage you to do, is write down all those ideas. Mm-hmm. They are not stupid. They might have potential. They might be your next business dream. And when I write down those ideas, I like to put them into a quadrant of 4 questions. And I'm looking over to my whiteboard because I keep them on my whiteboard that I can remind myself. I always have so many ideas. I've pivoted and changed my business over the 10 years. And you can give yourself permission to do that. You start off with something and you try it. You get so much stress and pressure about you've got to do this and you've got to keep building and you've got to stay in that lane as a solopreneur. And that's who I'm talking to. I'm talking to you women who are wanting to be solopreneurs or perhaps entrepreneurs when you build your team and you get a little bigger, is take that idea and then let's ask yourself, how difficult is this going to be? What do I need to make this happen?
Right.
Return on investment. How am I going to price my product, my service? And am I going to get a return on this particular product or service that I want to offer?
Right.
So that could be courses. That could be one-on-one coaching. That could be masterminds. That's where I started when I pivoted from...
Right.
Absolutely. And thank goodness that's coming back, Tom, with, live events now that people are needing to have people on stage coming to speak and do those, various, what do we call them? When you open up the conversation of a presentation. So there's just so many different ways and things to use your gifts.
Right.
So we've had a look at the return on investment and then the important question.
Well, I found in my life, in my experience, women have so many stories to tell.
They do.
But they don't necessarily consider them stories.
Right.
And they don't consider that they're worth telling.
And that, I think, is so important in business. And I'm realizing that more and more now, is that a person can realize that they might want to work with you by the stories that you tell, because you get to know a little bit more. And that's what, to me, is super important, is authenticity. And so you can't work with everybody. So take that pressure off. Right. You cannot appeal to everybody. Right. So give yourself permission to know that, yes, you, and especially I love that the power when you are in midlife is you get to choose who you want to work with. I think, when you start your business in the 20s and you feel very pressurized in the 30s, like, I've got to take on every client. Right. I'm a copywriter. I'm a photographer. You've got to work with everybody. But I think as we get older, you're allowed to be more selective.
Right. Just do what you like.
But
as a man in I don't want to say fortunate or unfortunately, a man's world, and the business world is still macho. Many men don't know how to deal with when we're talking about the gender gap, and it's true. But the men really
Right.
don't know. They don't understand what a woman's mindset is really all about. They can't
Right.
comprehend, because a woman really has such a diverse environment on a day-to-day activities, where men really don't. Men are just really structured, binarily. It's, on or off, in or out, and that's it. And so the storytelling, women have many more stories and more interesting stories than most men do.
Right. And then to tie that story in to a lesson that you've learned from it, because I think that then gives inspiration. If you've done something and you've learned a lesson and somebody else listens to that, they go, yeah, I can be empowered. I can. So, yeah, absolutely. Women must be encouraged to tell their stories and then tie it in to what they've learned from that. But
I've seen on your site, you have a unique way of doing that. And we're talking about the consulting packages. You offer a retreat in Lisbon in Portugal?
I do. So I fell in love with Portugal in 2019 and have been back so many times. And I just find it such an inspiring, it's just the perfect place for me. So I host these retreats for women entrepreneurs who need time not only to work on their business, because we gather together with masterminds and powwows and focus on the business, but we also take time to relax.
Right.
So this is at a quinta outside of Lisbon. So there is time for personal care and feeding both parts, feeding our soul and then feeding the curious business mind. But that is just a once a year offer that I do. My main focus at the moment is accountability and productivity for women. And it is said that if you have somebody holding you accountable, you are 90% more likely to reach that project, that goal, that target. And so that's what I offer now. I give different ways of doing that, but my favorite way at the moment is checking in with me once a week. We lay out a platform, we lay out a plan of what we're going to do, and then I work you through holding you accountable to those projects that need to be first broken down into tasks.
So step by step, right?
Absolutely, step by step. We get overwhelmed when we look at the big project, but you can break it down into actionable items, but sharing that with somebody else who's checking in with you. And so that's it. That's what I'm doing right now, these 15-minute check-in accountability calls once a week.
Once a week, short and sweet.
Short and sweet, just like the podcast. So.
Well, Carol, I want to thank you. We're coming to the end of our time, but how can our audience find you? If it's for the 15 minutes of happiness, if it's for the retreat, if it's just for a chat, where can they find you?
Absolutely. So I'd love to invite them to book the 30-minute free discovery call, because we need to see if we're a match. And with that, I give you your productivity worksheet, so you can take that away and get going if you choose on your own. But LisbonRetreats.com is where you can find me, or you can go to Linktree if you're a Linktree fan, and it's Linktree/Carol Clegg, and that's CLEGG.
Very good. Well, thank you for being part. Really exciting.
Thank you for the opportunity.
So again, for our listeners, you can find Carol Clegg, and it's CAROL, the last name CLEGG. Find her also on LinkedIn, Linktree, as you mentioned, and LisbonRetreats.com. LisbonRetreats.com. Café and Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil. More information on their website, focusmi.com. Thanks for listening. Until the next time here at Café and Networking Podcast.